mate him. Not only is he just winning by position, but
he's going to mate him. Yeah, queen e3 check followed by knight to c1, I think will be what we see.
But watch out for g6 check by white, right? That will be a big issue.
That would be a problem. The one way for Carlsen to
he'll
save
take on
the
h4
position.
with check. Okay, or not.
No, okay, he will. He's just being a good Russian schoolboy. Russian schoolboys know to always repeat as soon as you can. Magnus is about to throw in the towel. I can see by his body language.
The knight on b3 is hanging.
We have our first. We have our first mate on the board of the day. Magnus gets his bell rung. We don't miss an opportunity to do it ourselves. Always ring that bell anytime someone gets checkmated. And Grishuk jumps out to a 2-0 lead. It's time for them to rematch, and the players should do that.
Yeah, so, I mean, really, Grishuk with a very strong showing in the first two games. It's
Absolutely.
Extremely impressive. And now Grishuk gets the white pieces for the first time in classical chess, normal, not 960 chess. And he starts with d4, and we'll see how he progresses. But what a showing by Grishuk. I mean,
so far, so good, right? He's up 2-0. We show everybody the score here. We've been focused on zoning in on the action, and all the facial expressions these players have. But here we can see the score is 2-0, and here we're gonna have the best of both worlds now. Let's keep our eye on these players and all the emotions they'll show, and keep an eye on the score.
I have a question for you, Danny. Do you think Magnus has ever been down 2-0 in a match?
Like in the history of his life?
Or like, last 6 years?
Right. I mean, like since he was 7 years old?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I would have to say no. I think the match is still young, but if anything was going to get people on the edge of their seats, it's the fact that OMG, will the strongest player in history actually go down in this match, right? It's been said by the commentators. I'm not going to toot my own horn, as yes I am. I picked Grishuk to pull the massive upset in this match, of course knowing Carlsen is the favorite that he is. But Carlsen said to chess.com that he believes Grishuk is one of the three hardest opponents he has. Could ever possibly play. And we already know, as we've reviewed and showed you before the match started, the head-to-head score against these players is not as lopsided as you might think. So there you go. That is why we had our criticism, so to speak, of the lopsided votes here. But okay, the match is still young. Magnus Carlsen is still Magnus Carlsen. I do not expect him to go on complete tilt here, but then again, he's down 2-0. Now he's black in a worse middle game.
Yep.
Right? You have to stop the bleeding, so to speak. You don't want to lose this game. Even a draw is sort of a successful result right now for Magnus.
Absolutely. And speaking of Grishuk, he's not only the current World Blitz champion, but the 3-time World Blitz champion. And Magnus has actually only won 2 World Blitz championships himself. So I'm not saying that demonstrates that Grishuk is the better Blitz player, but it does show that he's a dominant player in his own right. And as you just mentioned about the position we have on the board, this is a worse middle game for black. And the main reason why is the knight on b1 can easily infiltrate d5. Mm-hmm. That knight on f6 has to reroute itself, and that pony can't get there quick enough.
Right. And so what ends up happening is you're either dealing with a middle game where your opponent instantly has more pieces, or you're committing to the long-term advantage of your opponent by giving them a protected passed pawn. Positionally, a pawn that is protected by another pawn is one of the most irritating things to deal with, right? It's like having a thorn in your shoe, and you got to take off your shoe, your sock, everything, desperately search for what's been poking you in your foot. A protected passed pawn is really hard to get rid of.
Yeah, and out here in Arizona, that might not be a thorn, that might be a cactus needle in your foot, so you don't want to deal with that.
No, exactly. And we're going to head to a middle game where white is going to be a little bit better. Magnus is preparing to have to eliminate that pony. Grishuk is preparing for the right time to enter into d5. I don't see a better time than now. Yeah, I was going to say, here we go. And let's force the capture. White has the bishop pair and the potential pressure on c5. And could we possibly see Carlsen go down 3-0-3 in this match?
Well, this is a really bad position for black. It's not that, the material is even. It doesn't look so horrible for black, but the problem is there are no real concrete plans. And white is just going to start piling up pressure. The light square bishop can prove very dominant. For example, black has a very difficult time going pawn to b6 because that bishop on e2 will then go to a6 and kick the rook from the c file. Mm-hmm. So fighting for the c file is actually not easy for black. And even if you get this pony to d6, well, white just simply goes pawn to f3. The c5 pawn will always be a target. And at some point, White will consider, even in here, bishop g4. Same idea as bishop
Magnus
a6
shaking
to
his
b6.
head. He's just not happy with himself
And
at this point.
Because now he lost a pawn.
He's blundering. Grishuk knows it. Sasha is he's zoned in right now. I'm trying to think of something better to say about his expression, but I mean, has he blinked in the last 45 minutes? I don't think he has. And he's going to gobble up c5 and put Carlsen completely on his heels, potentially bringing the world champion to an 0-3 deficit in the match. We still have a long way to go, folks. An hour in the 5-minute portion, and that's before we get to the 3-minute portion. But so far, so good if you are a fan of the reigning World Blitz champion, Sasha Grishuk. The knight establishing on d6, this is just good positional chess. Aaron Nimzovich would be proud. Unlike other pieces who struggle there, the knight actually thrives in blockading positions. But the problem is you're down a protected pass pawn that is completely protected. The c file is owned by white. Currently, it's the only open file on the board. I'm in pain if I'm a Carlsen fan right now.
Yeah, and actually I think Magnus did well to get here after what looked like a really just tough position. He was shaking his head. And now all of a sudden what Grishuk wants is to create another weakness. It's very important because black is very solid. On f5, Magnus is trying to gain space, put pressure on. Now the pawn e4 is already under attack. But is it really is the essential question? Because if I go bishop h3, I'll always throw my bishop into e6 check at the right moment. So unfortunately for Magnus, despite trying to take back the c file, he's not really getting it. I can just double my rooks in the c file now. I think that's recommended. Rook to c1. And actually g4, I'd be very tempted to play as well here. And here it is. And the problem for black is now this bishop is going to try to make its way into e6. And so Magnus being smart. If g takes f5, king f6 is not so clear. So, it's a good battle right now. I think Magnus is doing his best to try to save this half point, but Grishuk, just a dominant performance so far.
Absolutely, and but what we did say before this game started that probably even a draw would be considered a successful result for Magnus, right? Being down 0-2, you don't want to go on a losing streak going 0-3. So I like the way he's defended this position, as ugly as this looks. If he's able to win back this pawn safely and somehow simplify into a rook ending, he might be able to hold, right? So that's all Carlsen has on his mind right now. Hold this position where he was worse from the get-go, and give himself a chance to win his white.
And some tactics might be in there. I'm thinking of rook e1 now, and if knight takes f5, maybe some f4 moves that it gets really risky for black.
Jiggy with it. You've been listening to Big Willie. I like it.
And there's all of a sudden some issues with pawn on e5. Knight on f5 is very loose. And
the point, everybody, is if f takes, rook e6 check is a hanging knight. Amazing stuff here. I tried our new analysis of moving the pieces, but looks like we have a little bit of a bug. I'm stuck in analysis mode, even though the players are playing. Always hoping developers are listening, so let's see if so I press the reset button and I get back there. Maybe not a bug, actually. I like it. Not a bug, it's a feature. That's the old saying that developers have for you.
Yep.
This is great defense right now. You can tell Grishuk is a little bit frustrated, looking at his facial expression. Confirmed by our assistant here that the evaluation has gone down from nearly +2 to about half a pawn as Magnus has defended really well, getting activity for his pieces.
Yeah, and Grishuk looks hyper-focused. Look at how he's set up in his chair, so the top of his head's almost invisible to us. But he's really trying to find a way to increase his advantage. But
I was going to say, that was a risky idea. Is he really putting himself in position where his rook...
King
look at this tactic.
Yep.
If king f2, rook takes g4, followed by knight e4 check, forking the rook. That's a trap town population Grishuk. He went for it.
Oh, he blundered.
He went for it and blundered. And Carlsen, he smiles and sticks out his tongue. Classic Magnus.
And in fact, he probably should have taken with the other rook. It was a stronger rook to take
Even
with.
stronger. Rook 8 takes g4 would have kept this rook on the very dangerous third rank. Okay, Carlsen is likely to go on to win. Talk about a swing of events here. We had nearly a +2 advantage for the Russian. We're now at nearly a +2 advantage for the Norwegian. That is how things turn around in Blitz, although this is not the easiest endgame to win yet, right?
Yeah, lots of pawns to deal with.
Whole lot of pawns to deal with, not a lot of time. The problem for Grishuk is he is also running out of time on the clock. Love the animation from Magnus. That's why we have the players webcammed up. When would you ever see Magnus Carlsen stick his tongue out in a real game? I challenge you over the board chess. Prove to me you're still as entertaining as online chess. That was hilarious.
That was great. And, well, in some ways, this is payback because there was discussion about how Grishuk won the ICC battle between the two, and the ICC championship was 2.5, 1.5 in Grishuk's favor. But he was actually down a full piece in that game. And as we said, the advantage was +2 at some point for Grishuk in this game.
Look at what's happening here, though, because Magnus played for a mating net, made a ton of sense. But if he continued on that track, Grishuk would queen with check just in time, winning the game. So Carlsen has to abandon that plan, but now these two pawns are still going to be a little bit tricky to clean up. Grishuk not thrilled at this point. Obviously, he let an 0-3 chance go away. Speaking of which, at Samuel Maxton on Twitter said, speaking of zoned in, Magnus looked totally preoccupied in the first few games, but nothing like a potential 0-3 deficit to turn things around.
And there's a cool tactic here. Rook G7, if knight E6 doesn't actually attack the rook, because if you take my rook, I go H7. So I can actually leave my rook there for a move. But knight F5 is, of course, the better option, because now king E2 doesn't attack any pawns, and, well, it's just desperation time.
Now it's desperation time. There's no way that this e-pawn and the potential mating nets threats that the knight and pawn create with the rook are not going to decide this game. I expect Grishuk to throw in the towel here momentarily, and as I say that, you're good at predicting moves. I'm good at predicting body language. He takes a sip of his coffee, says, well, you got to forget that one, Sasha.
Yeah, and that makes us the perfect duo, because if I take your ability to read body language and we do the moves, I mean, we're going to be a dangerous player.
We're going to be dangerous players if only that worked that way, right?